We are all by now way too familiar with how stressed everyone is in the industry, that burnout is a real thing. And there's a general consensus. Property management is just all too hard, and we've got a mass exodus of people leaving the industry. But what if there was support out there right on your doorstep and you haven't even used it yet? Welcome to the Property Management Podcast, everyone. Now, in case you haven't heard, I've launched a property management membership called Accelerate. It's a membership for property managers by property managers, and it is designed to help you accelerate your growth, your systems and processes, your marketing, and your personal development. It's pretty much a one-stop shop where you'll have access to all the support and training you've been wanting for so long, but haven't known where to get it all in the one place. Well, now you can. And the added benefit is the community you get to be part of when you join. A community of like-minded business owners, property managers, and working mums, all wanting success without stress, chaos, and overwhelm. We even have a done-for-you element where all your social media is planned and created for you. And we have live monthly trainings from myself and industry experts, stepping you through the exact steps and strategies that will help you get to where you need to be without all the hard work, setbacks, health issues, and tears. We guarantee to help you transform from failing to thriving in all aspects of your business and life. So all you need to do is click on the link in the show notes and join at an exclusive founding members discounted price. And don't forget to tell all your property management friends about the Accelerate membership as well. Now let's dive in to today's episode, and we're going to talk more about property management support. We are all by now way too familiar with how stressed everyone is in the industry, that burnout is a real thing. And there's a general consensus. Property management is just all too hard, and we've got a mass exodus of people leaving the industry. But what if there was support out there right on your doorstep and you haven't even used it yet? What if they could offer you training for your team members, networking events, property management support for dealing with grey areas of the legislation and best practice, digital forms and templates, and even full legal advice if you are ever in a situation where you are facing litigation? Well, there is this unicorn, and it's called your governing body. And today I spoke with two senior members of the Real Estate Institute of Queensland team. And, well, I sure learned a thing or two, especially about the new legislation changes. More importantly, though, I was reminded what a great support they are for the real estate industry, business owners and property managers, and they are also amazing advocates of the housing sector as a whole. Now, while my guests today focus on the Queensland legislation, this episode is an important reminder to anyone feeling overwhelmed, confused, or stressed about what the legislation in your state is doing or what's happening, or you're confused about how to resolve a situation, then I encourage you to reach out to your governing bodies for support. Now, I've been a member with the REIQ since I started my business, and I have used their property management support services a lot, probably even on a daily basis in the early days of starting my business. Remember, I knew nothing about property management when I started. I've also had to use their legal advice following an incident involving a tenant and an unfortunate accident at a property. Their advice was invaluable. My guests today are industry veterans. Connie McKee has been in the industry for over 40 years and has pretty much been there and done it when it comes to real estate. And Kat Beavon is the legal counsel for the REIQ, but she doesn't just sit behind her keyboard. She is a huge advocate for change and works tirelessly behind the scenes, chipping away at clearing up those grey areas in the legislation and making life much less stressful and complicated for anyone in real estate. So I hope you have a pen and paper handy, because you might want to take some notes around some of the advice that they share on the new legislation in Queensland in particular. Let's dive on in. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me on the Property Management Podcast. Now, before we get started, can you please tell me a little bit about yourselves and how you got started in the industry?
Okay, I'll start if that's okay with you, Kat.
Of course.
My name is Connie McKee, and this is my 41st year in real estate. So I started as a receptionist in a real estate office in Toowoomba, and always had the ambition to own my own businesses, which I was a director at 28. I've owned 3 property management businesses, been involved in sales, always stayed a practical real estate practitioner, but have also been involved as a trainer, advisor for the REIQ now for about 25 years.
Amazing.
And I'm Kat Beavon. I'm General Counsel and Company Secretary here at the REIQ. Haven't been around as long, but I've only been within the REIQ for 3 years now, going on 10, as I normally say. And I was previously in private practice, generally within the commercial and property sector. So always been in property post admission. So it's something that I've really grown to enjoy and even loved even more now that I'm in the real estate sector. So, yeah.
Amazing. Great stories, ladies. Now, we've got so much to chat about today, but let's start with a bit of a hot topic in property management at the moment, and that is recruitment in the industry. There's been a lot of experienced property managers have left since COVID. And then on the flip side of that, it's very hard for people who've just completed their registration courses to jump into a job because they don't have the experience. So it's a bit of a catch-22. But you guys have a bit of a solution to that, which I am absolutely loving, and that is your Job Ready program. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, well, the Job Ready was designed specifically for all of the reasons that you have just mentioned, Kylie. And, you know, the REIQ has copped criticism in the past that people are coming out of rego and, you know, they're not job ready. The reality of it is the REIQ doesn't legislate the training that we have to deliver as part of the rego course. It's a regulated environment. And yes, we know there are gaps. However, you have to meet the criteria to be able to satisfy the Office of Fair Trading. So that's another issue. So what we've done is with my co-presenter, Celinda Randall, collectively we've got about 70 years practical experience. We've designed a 2-day program that it delves into everyday property management. So we look at the PO Form 6, obviously the RealWorks version, and we don't just tell people how they should fill it in, we explain the why. And, you know, sadly for me, sometimes I've learnt the hard way as to the why.
Same here.
When we talk best practice, it's not just do this, it's why you will do this, because if you don't, this could be the consequence with the dispute you have with your owner or the dispute you have with your tenant. So we closely look at the PO Form 6, Essential Terms and Conditions, the Form 18A, because on the Property Management Support Service, sadly, the amount of property managers who do not know how to complete that correctly, they end up in QCAT, they get orders against the agency rather than the owner. We'll have a good look at the Form 18A, the Form 11, Form 12, an urgent application to QCAT. We'll have a look at the new legislation with the topical issue of pets and how to practically handle that as well. We'll be looking at a soon-to-be-released fee variation document that we've made available. Will be, I think, tomorrow that will be released on RealWorks. And more importantly, we've got real-life case scenarios. So last year, when we were going through the case scenarios of complaints, everyone's like, is this a real one? I'm like, no, I could have thousands of real ones. This is one that I believe you'll come across quite regularly. We learn how to reference the key documents, how to reference instructions and construct a professional response so that property managers aren't getting intimidated and feeling out of their depth when someone comes at them, you know, in a fairly strong manner. They feel more confident in being able to handle that without letting it potentially, I suppose, become a bigger issue than what it needs to be. So it really is about breeding confidence, because I found as a young property manager, if I felt someone knew more than what I did, that's when I got frightened. Whereas when I came from a place of I'm pretty confident, I know my stuff, I didn't feel as intimidated in doing the job. I wasn't bullied by certain personalities. I could stand firm with my professional approach to it. So, we've had outstanding feedback from the program, and not just from newcomers. We've had people who've been around for 10 years say, oh, I didn't know that was the facts. So sadly, there's a bit of myth out there where we get into the facts and what the legislation really says, but we do it in a way that it makes sense to you as well.
Yeah,
I totally agree with you. I think you've hit on a great gap in the market and the training and the courses and the support that's out in the property management industry. Everyone's talking about how stressed and burnt out they are. But I think understanding and really understanding your legislation will alleviate so much of that stress. And I'm guilty of not understanding a lot of the legislation, and hence why I have always been a member of the REIQ, because of your amazing support services. So maybe we can talk a little bit about that and share some of the, the ways that you assist agencies who have property managers who are experiencing, stress because they really don't understand the ins and outs of the legislation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. So Kat heads up our property management support service. I'm a founding member. We started that about 8 years ago. And it was a passion of mine because very early in my career, there was a gentleman at the REIQ who I used to ring a lot. And he was patient with me. Sometimes he gave me tough love and told me what I didn't know and what I should know. But he always helped guide me. And I inevitably, when I got off the phone, felt a bit better about the job. So what we have done is having Kat on board. Antonio's always been there supporting us as well, but Kat's pretty much dedicated to, if we have issues come up on the property management support service, we're all practitioners, we're not lawyers, so we can't give legal advice. But if we get questions come through, we're just wanting a little bit of clarity, because there's still a lot of grey in property management. Even now I get questions come up and I go, really? Would someone really think to do that? What is wrong with this person? So I'll have a chat to Kat and say, look, this is my take on it. Is this the best way for our member to handle it? Because we're all about risk prevention for our members. And then from time to time, if the agency is an accredited agency, we can escalate that via Kat, where our members can get intervention from cardinal lawyers. We've had a number of instances that without that advice, those cases could have escalated to being very stressful circumstances for those member agents as well. So, there's not any one day that's the same, because as you know, Kylie, being a property manager, there's so many different issues that can arise. We just don't talk legislation because we've all been around for a while. We talk about some of the skills that you can use in your communication to be an influencer to get the outcome you're looking for, rather than being a dictator. Because I found in all my years doing it, let someone think it was their idea and you've got a better chance of getting an outcome rather than thinking you're going to dictate to people about what they should or shouldn't do.
Yeah. And I guess the wonderful thing about the property management support service, which obviously we offer to our members, is that we get to learn what's happening on the ground. And because we have touch points with the main authorities and are really close to property stakeholders that really matter and impact, legislative changes, Department of Housing, Residential Tenancies Authority, OFT, we, apart from providing guidance to our members, we get to try and make a change as well in the back end, because they can provide, our members can provide us with feedback in relation to what's not working in practice. And so we're able to provide that feedback to the relevant stakeholders as well as providing them with guidance on whatever issues or matters that they're currently faced with.
So and that's huge. It's a huge advantage to our members, because sometimes those organisations might get it a bit wrong. So we ask our members to give us detailed information, and then we pass it on to Kat, and Kat will then be in communication with the appropriate government authority regarding it.
Time management is precious for property managers with so many tasks to do every single day and week. Have you ever thought about how much time you waste in an average day troubleshooting annoying maintenance questions? Let me tell you, it's a lot. But there is a solution. They're called Rental Heroes, and they are the #1 natural language AI conversation platform for real estate. What does that mean? They have artificial intelligence automation that deals with all your tenant maintenance inquiry. It even logs a job in your software, all without you having to do a thing. And if you thought that was amazing, wait until you try their chatbot that collects leads on your website 24/7. Now, we all need a hero in our life, so why not make yours Alex? Mention this podcast and you'll receive your first month free. It only takes 30 minutes to set up, and there are no lock-in contracts. Head to the show notes to book yourself in. I think, reducing some of those grey areas will probably, will stop a lot of that stress and anxiety that a lot of people are facing when it comes to dealing with the legislation. Let's go back to them and say, get rid of some grey areas and make some clear-cut decisions on things. Would be amazing. And I'm sure you guys pull your hair out as well. I mean, you're dealing with so many cases, I imagine, on a daily basis from your members. What are some of the big, let's talk about some of the big issues that are coming up at the moment. Obviously, we've had the new legislation changes in Queensland, and I know Victoria has had the same, but just speaking from Queensland perspective, what are some of the big issues that your members are experiencing at the moment?
Probably pets is a regular one, and Kat recently did an excellent video with the RTA, which, Kat, you might like to just explain their response, particularly in relation to body corporate, because we've been working behind the scenes because we've got two pieces of legislation that aren't really helping each other. So do you want to maybe explain the body corporate with the 14-day requirement and the RTA's position on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you know, your listeners would be aware, there's been some changes in relation to a lessor's requirement to respond within a prescribed period of time, being 14 days under the RTRA Act. And of course, when a body corporate's involved, they're not governed by the same legislation. They're governed by the Body Corporate and Community Management Act, right? So within that legislation, body corporate committees actually have up to 6 weeks to respond to any inquiries. So there's this overlap or clash, I should say, in terms of two pieces of legislation that doesn't align, yet a lessor is required to respond within such a strict time frame. And so this has been at the top of our minds and something that, we have raised with the RTA as well as the Commissioner's Office. And it's something that we'll continue to try and lobby for in terms of an amendment to legislation. Obviously, that's also not easy given the current portfolio that that's currently being carried within the department. So it's really finding, trying to navigate through, well, what does a lessor have to do and what does a tenant have to do in response to any pet request within a body corporate. And that's something that we'll be actually discussing during our property management conference this year. So, if any of your listeners want to attend to that, that's something that we'll have the former commissioner attend that with me, and we'll be speaking about that very issue.
Fantastic. So what should somebody do right now then if they are in that situation? What's your advice at the moment for dealing with that?
So we always encourage communication, right? At the very first instance, we encourage both parties to be really upfront, even prior to entering into a tenancy agreement, to propose to the other party that whether there's going to be a pet involved. Because if that's the case, then more often than not, you can actually get it over the line in lieu of having to request for a pet during the tenancy agreement, right? Notification early on is always the best avenue. And there's always going to be dispute resolution processes should parties don't agree. So in this instance, we would expect that lessors would say no to a pet on the basis that they haven't received body corporate's approval, and they can then go through the proper processes in place under the BCCM Act and go through that process of disputing if it's taking too long. So unfortunately, at this stage, we have to still cater to responding to the 14-day process. And, it doesn't fix the issue of everything being backlogged within conciliation process, right? There's a wait within the Commissioner's office. There's a wait within QCAT. But unfortunately, at this stage, if the lessor is tied to a bylaw that requires body corporate consent, they have the ability to say no until such time that they receive that consent from the body corporate.
And the tenant can go direct to the Commissioner, so not the RTA, they can go direct to the Commissioner looking to, and even if approval wasn't given, looking to attempt to have that overturned.
Correct.
As well. But it's like anything, that's not an overnight fix.
Yeah.
But first and foremost, if there's no response or the response is no, then that's what the owner has to act on, and the property manager has to act on as well.
Property inspections, entries, exits, incomings, outgoings, routine inspections, whatever you call them, you have to do them. And I remember when I first started as a property manager, you had to handwrite the reports and take notes on a digital camera, then upload the photo memory card to your computer and hope and pray that they weren't all blurry or your computer had enough memory to store them. But gone are those days, thanks to Inspection Express. Now, Inspection Express is not only the #1 tool used by leading property managers across Australia and New Zealand, but the leader in groundbreaking new tech in the industry with the launch of 360-degree virtual tours. Now, virtual tours is upping the ante, giving landlords, owners and directors unparalleled 360-degree virtual access to their properties. So head to the link in the show notes to book in your free demo with Inspection Express. So what about some of the other changes with the new legislation? What are some of things that we should be aware of or issues that you're dealing with that you can sort of help us navigate?
Well, the first thing I'd like to say is there has never been a 60-day notice period. The amount of times I hear property managers say, we have to give 60 days, I'd be a very, very wealthy woman. There isn't a 60-day notice period, and there has never been a 60-day notice period in my 41 years in real estate. It's 2 calendar months. So the 2 calendar month notice period is what we know we need to give for the end of a fixed term agreement. And as you would know, Kylie, there are no without grounds that if you're ending a fixed term agreement, it has to be on the basis of one of the legislated grounds. Our best practice position is you always use the end of the fixed term agreement, even if the owner is anticipating moving back in, or if they are putting it on the market or anticipating selling it. If you have the end of the fixed term agreement as your grounds, you don't trigger any of those other unusual provisions that come in that can put restrictions or penalties associated with what the owner chooses to do with their property thereafter. We thought we did a lot of education around the potential risks associated with periodic agreements because it has to be on a grounds. There is no without grounds. But sadly, we're still seeing it come through PMSS where property managers have not acted potentially as diligently as what they could have, or they have tried to help a tenant out who wanted to extend a notice period, but they haven't understood legally how they should go about doing that. It's gone past your 14 days where you could potentially apply to QCAT at the end of the Form 12. So they've put their owner in a position of now it's in a periodic and looking at everything they can to try and get the tenant out. But there's limitations to that. So, you just have to be very diligent in relation to following owner instructions and making sure you give the correct notice for the end of the fixed term agreement. And if the owner does want it to go to periodic, that it's clearly agreed to in writing. So sadly, we thought we had handled that pretty well, but we are seeing a lot of property managers feeling quite stressed in relation to that, which potentially could have been avoided a little bit.
I had to reach out to your service actually on that with a periodic lease, because it was a sale property and it was a private rental, and there was actually no lease in place, but we just needed to know, how to continue on with the lease once the new landlord took over, and how to get that tenant onto a lease, and how to avoid that periodic lease. So I can definitely vouch for the value that your service offers in terms of supporting property managers. So, but sorry, I interrupted you then. Were you going to continue on with some more legislation advice?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to highlight that Section 70 interpretation that the RTA has obviously, disclosed in terms of their version of how they envision what that, how that's legally interpreted. And just wanted to highlight that notwithstanding the ambiguity behind whether it is valid or not in terms of when a periodic agreement does in fact is enlivened, just want to make it clear that if an agent doesn't provide 2 clear calendar months prior to end of the fixed term agreement, and under Section 70, it does allow, under RTA's interpretation, they're able to provide notice within that 2 calendar months. But as a result, that fixed term tenancy will then be inadvertently extended by whatever period is remaining. So, for example, if I gave it a week late prior to the end of the fixed term, then that fixed term agreement will extend for an extra week so that 2 clear calendar months is provided to the tenant. Now, just be wary that obviously agents are also required to also governed by another separate legislation, which is the Property Occupations Act. And agents have a fiduciary obligation to the client, being the owner of the property, that if their instructions is that a tenancy is to end on a fixed term agreement and it goes beyond that, an agent could be seen as in breach of their fiduciary obligation, because they should be acting under their client's instructions. So notwithstanding the fact that, again, the RTRA Act, enables you to do one thing, agents need to bear in mind there are other obligations under the separate act, being the Property Occupations Act. So, this is something that we do understand is yet to be tested under QCAT, and that's something that we are seeking clarification on. So watch this space. We are expecting to receive a clarification from QCAT about this issue. And until we see a decision on this matter, we just want, agents to be mindful of their obligations to their client.
Wow, it is such a minefield, really, when you look at all the different conflicting legislations and acts, and oh my goodness, this actually highlights the point why people in the industry need to be working with their governing bodies, such as you guys, the REIQ. So what are some of the services and the value and offerings and benefits, I guess, that business owners in the industry have by being members with you guys?
So you mentioned earlier that we had our Job Ready program, and of course that was us responding to the needs of their business and also the needs of our members. And what we have held recently, which was a sellout, was our career networking event. So that was really a great opportunity, and that's free to members only, where they are exposed to existing students of the REIQ, and they can actually, it's almost, we call it kind of a speed dating for, recruitment, where really the feedback was excellent. We had students there who were really interested in all different sectors. This is not just only associated with property management, it's also in all other sectors like sales, commercial, etc. But it's a really great opportunity for businesses like within the property management who's losing staff day in and day out to meet individuals who are preparing to enter into the real estate industry And our students, and of course, being our students, we know that we're setting them up for success. And it's a really great opportunity for them to meet other students, meet other members within the industry, and really talk about and expose themselves to potentially recruiting, as well as learning about the industry and what's happening in the sector.
Yes, so that is excellent, and I know I still train in the room, and there's times where I'm sitting there thinking, oh, I would love to get hold of that person. Just it's attitudinal, and they're paying for it themselves, so they're making a considered decision that this is their career that they want. So there's many a time where I thought there's some great opportunities here for employers. Because I found over the years, depending on the culture of your business, I would rather train up myself rather than continuing to employ where I'm only going for experience. I quite like to create the culture that I want within my own business. So if you've got the right attitude and someone keen to learn, then I think that's a great value add for our members. And then, of course, we have a number of events, Women in Real Estate as well. I think our awards for excellence are highly regarded, and I think that's a wonderful thing for people out there to work towards for their own personal and professional development. And I think it really adds if they can say that they've won Property Manager of the Year with the REIQ, huge value add to them, and just all our advisory services. Plus, I have to say, RealWorks. Poor Kat got sick of me last year because when it came to the roadshow, we had planning, and I said, we need a form for that. No, we need a form for that. We definitely need a form for that, because I know when you're in the trenches and you're just getting through your day and someone says, draft an email, draft a document for that, you don't want to do that. You want someone to have made that easy for you, particularly with legislation. So we added
50 forms.
50 new forms to RealWorks. Everyone wanted us to do a fee variation for the PO Form 6. We've done that, and that will be released tomorrow with legally the correct way to do that, because there's no point having a fee variation unless that stands up when you go to sell your rent roll, because that's what it's about. So, that's been legally drafted with instructions how to do that correctly. We're just really adding to RealWorks all the time to try and make life easier for property managers and salespeople, for all, but obviously I'm very property management focused.
Yeah, REIQ accredited agency members actually receive a significant discount to RealWorks. So not only do you get a benefit from financially, but you get to gain access to the resources that we constantly update. We have a suite of I would say a roadmap of forms that we're going to be updating throughout the year, not just in response to legislative changes, but just as practices change, as we continue to develop. So we're definitely always looking for, feedback in relation to forms that's required in practice, as well as our, proactively responding to the needs of the industry. And I know Connie mentioned earlier our legal service. So accredited agency have the ability to access best practice legal support from a really, really well-known brand being Kylie Lawyers, who we have a 30+ years relationship with, and they have really supported a lot of our members. A perfect example is a recent QCAT matter where they need an agent, so an accredited agent needed our assistance in terms of interpretation of legislation and responding to the adjudicator in terms of why they've taken a position they've taken. And they actually ended up winning that matter and received a reasonably favorable decision. But, that was a really good example of how important it is to have someone like Kylie Lawyers on your side. When you're an adjudicator says you have 30 minutes to get back to me and tell me, why you've taken this position. And all it was a call to the REIQ, and we were able to urgently pass them on to our legal advisory service and help them through that process. So this is a really, essential service that we provide to our members that is really, not enough members are using and utilizing. So please call us if you need anything in relation to legal advice, best practice advice, of course.
If you are anything like me, you think you know your rent roll numbers. Well, I thought I did until I had a rent roll health check, and I was quite literally shocked. The money I was leaving on the table was astounding, and this is not something that I'm proud to admit. There were missed management fees, let fees, advertising and lease renewal fees not being charged, and properties even without bonds. And all of this was happening despite monthly audits being conducted in my business. So how did I uncover all these gaps in my valuable income? Well, I had a rent roll due diligence from my good friend Tazi, aka the Rent Roll Queen and founder of the Tazi Way, a specialist in rent roll due diligence, business valuation and management rights. The Tazi Way is the innovative force driving the real estate industry. With 25 years of business and real estate acumen, they find gaps and risks in your agency to find undiscovered value. If you'd like to book your business in for a rent roll due diligence, head to the link in the show notes and mention That Property Mum for a 10% discount. I have used that service before in an insurance issue where somebody was trying to sue us for not insurance. What am I trying to say? Liability. And somebody's tried to sue us, and we have used and sought out your advice there. There's some amazing value there for members of the REIQ, no doubt about it. And I have I wouldn't have got through the past probably 14 years in business without the support from the REIQ. I think when I first started, it would have been a daily phone call asking, the most ridiculous questions like, how long do I have, when do I send a breach notice? How long do I have to give them before I send a notice to leave? I had absolutely no idea when I started my business. And I'm sure there's lots of property managers and business owners that are starting their businesses and even now with all the legislation changes just need that support. And we talk about how much stress and burnout there is, and yet there's an easy solution to support property managers and business owners on our doorstep. So
yeah, that's a great point, Kylie. I really want to stress there's no dumb questions. Like, as in, we would much rather you call us at the beginning of the transaction rather than calling us going, oh, I've done the wrong thing and now I need help getting out of it. So please call us as much as you can. Connie, you might be able to even speak to Connie during that day, but definitely call us, even if you just want a confirmation that you're doing the right thing. It doesn't even have to be a problem, right? If you just need a second ear to go, hey, I just want to make sure I'm doing this right, there'll be someone on the other end of the line that will be able to assist you.
Perfect.
And that is really important for small offices where they don't have the benefit of running something past another person or a debrief. So we get a lot of that. We're really reaffirming that, yes, you are doing the right thing, or sometimes we might say, oh, perhaps consider this as well. But we were all newcomers too. As I said, I rang poor Les Elborn daily. So, to me, it's about someone having a wonderful career like I've experienced. And if we can keep people in the industry where they grow, learn, and then look back and say, thank goodness I stayed in property management, this is a great career, then that's really what we want to do. We want to retain as well.
I think that's really, really important. I'm going to change pace a little bit now. And I'm a big advocate of personal development, which I know, Connie, you are as well. So can you share, each of you, just a tool, a resource, a podcast, a book, something that you guys like to do for your own personal development? Or have I put you on the spot here with that question?
I was going to say, I don't think I could ever give you just one, Kylie.
Well, I thought you would say Pilates, but
I'm very much about attempting to try to have some balance because, I've been close to burnout owning businesses, raising families, and all of that over the years. But I learnt techniques to decompress, even if it was giving my brain a half an hour of space. So I think, what happens in property management is it can all become so overwhelming that you can't see the forest for the trees. So I'm huge on mindset. But I wouldn't say to you there's any one podcast that I could support. I've been reading, every type of professional development book from when I was 16. So, I have a huge list, but I do say you have to be kind to yourself. Realize that you're not perfect. And if you make a mistake, as I have over the years, you think, oh, I could have done that better. Well, I really learned from that one. I'm not going to throw in the towel and say, oh, this is terrible. I'm going to go, okay, well, that won't happen again. Pick yourself up, and then you get better at what you do. So that's just sort of my take on it.
Yeah, I learned that on a daily basis from Connie, by the way. So she really does live and breathe that. If I was to talk podcasts, I have an obsession with podcasts. So I'll pick one that for all the principal listeners out there, I don't know if I can say this, and this is not sponsored, by the way, but I just love it. It's called No Bullshit Leadership by Martin Moore. Really nice, quick snippets of just how to be a great leader and how to be of great service to others, which I think within the property management sector, it's really important to ensure that we continue to support our teams, right? We don't want to keep losing people, it's really he has a great spin, and they're short snippets, and he provides really great guidance. And at the same time, always listen out for any training that the REIQ provides, is all I can say. We work really hard to listen to our members and the profession in terms of what the needs are in the business in all of the sectors. And, please continue to follow us, because we will be producing more sector-specific training, especially within the property management space. And we're really passionate about making sure that we don't lose any more good property managers out there. And we support principals in training new property managers, because you don't have time to do that, right? So let us do that for you, and keep an eye out for all of our training in relation to property management, especially with phase 2 of rental reforms, because it will come.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And on that note,
Yep.
You'll notice that the REIQ, there's chatter. I'm on a number of Facebook pages about property management. There's chatter about phase 2. What you've got to realise is the REIQ is in consultation all the time. We don't come out with chatter. When we come out, we come out with facts and tell you exactly what will be happening. So that training will be in the pipeline. But behind the scenes, Antonia does a lot of work, not just to help REIQ members, but to help the sector as a whole. So, rent capping is a big topic. Antonia's been, working that for a very long time. So, watch this space and keep up to date with what's going to be happening in phase 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, how can our audience actually connect with you and follow along for the journey of all the updates and what you guys have got coming up, what trainings you're offering, what's the best place for them to get all that information?
So we have our website, reiq.com. We also have our own podcast, of course, Property Brief. And if you're a member and subscribe to our property management support newsletter, that comes out every fortnight. That's purely property management, and we ensure that we update that as we respond to queries within the advisory service. And Connie and the team also contributes to that newsletter. And we also have, on the alternate weeks, we have our journal as well. So we're on socials, we're on Facebook, Instagram, and you'll see us all the time, making sure that we're loud and proud about what we do. Connie, did you have anything else to add on that?
No, I think everyone's on social media. Kylie, which is your baby, of course. So if you're not a Facebook lover, it's on Instagram. do a bit of Twitter from here, but I think most people will be following either one of those. And then, of course, there's additional information on the website as well. But I think Facebook and Instagram will direct you where you need to go if you need more information.
And our members receive, obviously more educational pieces as well, in terms of, it could be a free webinar, it could be an article, etc. So please, if you're not a member already, speak to one of our team, 1300-MY-REIQ, or ask@reiq.com.au, and we'll be able to assist any of your listeners.
Fantastic. I will share all of those links in the show notes. Thank you, ladies, so much for your time. I know you are busy, busy ladies. I really appreciate you being here with me today.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you for inviting us, Kylie, and congratulations and good work with everything you're doing out there to help the property management sector as well. It's lovely to see your business growing.
Thank you. There's been so much talk of stress, overwhelm and burnout in property management lately. Do you want to know how I overcame all of that? Yes, I hit rock bottom multiple times, but I got myself a virtual assistant. Actually, not just one, but 3. But I didn't just get any VA, I got a PM VA. What are they? Well, they are the most well-trained in the business. And not only that, you also have a backup VA. So that essentially your business is never without admin support ever again. And my health, time and business has never looked back. Your PMVA can take care of tasks like rent arrears, lease preparation and renewals, maintenance follow-up, routine inspection bookings, data entry, audits, prospecting, inbox management and so much more. And the best part of implementing a PMVA in my business was that it freed up my time and my team's time to take care of important things like customer service. What makes me feel so safe is that PMVA is owned by Tiffany Botel, both here and in the Philippines, making my data secure and giving me more control over the VA arrangement. So head to the link in the show notes to book in your discovery call with Lady Boss Tiff. Okay, tell me, would you like to make maintenance your superpower? Well, you can. And you don't even need to tell anyone, it's all thanks to Tappy, a powerful property care software that takes all the pain, stress and chaos out of dealing with maintenance and turns it into a predictable process that is reliable and frictionless, where every maintenance process is a smooth experience for everyone, with value adds that your owners and tenants will absolutely love. And it seamlessly integrates with your property management software too. And here's the bonus, it can actually help grow your business as well. And if you're rolling your eyes at me right now and thinking, yeah, right, I've heard all this before, then do yourself a favour and book in for a demo at tappy.com.au. Mention That Property Mum and receive 1 month free on Tappy. Can I ask you a quick favour before you leave this episode? Now, we all know how important reviews are for businesses these days, and mine is no different. If you could spare just a minute to follow, rate and review this podcast, it would mean a lot to me. In fact, what would get me super excited is if you share this podcast with someone in the industry who you think might need to hear some of the episodes right now. And if you'd like to find out more about working with me or any of the products I have to help you start, grow or scale your property management business, head to my website, thatpropertymum.com.au, or check out the links in the show notes.